All right, fantastic. Well, just sitting here chomping at the bit to do exactly that. So thank you very much, Mike and Timo. And yeah, I'll go ahead and get started here. So I'm here to present today about JES Web, and then the subtitle there, Raising the Bar and Your Bottom Line. Today's June 7th, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let me see if I can actually make this forward space here. All right, there we go. All right, so a little bit of background about Phoenix Software. Been in business since 1978, developing and supporting mainframe software, and we're a fairly small company. We have two main locations, one in Los Angeles, one in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They back each other up. We have mainframes on each side, and of course all the rest of our infrastructure. We're very responsive to customer needs. We're a privately held company, so we aren't, beholden to shareholders with quarterly profit demands and that kind of thing. All of our developers are seasoned professionals living and working in the United States of America, and we have not outsourced any portion of our operation, nor do we ever intend to. We have customers from Fortune 500 all the way down to small business and everything in between, and best practice security policies are paramount here. Now, one of the things we do is we focus on all the time leveraging the latest hardware and software tech. And there's a number of reasons for that, right up here in the upper right-hand corner. We care about performance, and usually the latest technology performs best. That's one of the reasons why it comes out a lot of times. Also, we're very focused on trying to reduce customer costs, and the latest technology often helps do that. We care a lot about the ZOS platform, ZOS platform. I'll try to say Z when I can. Forgive me when I don't. And leveraging the latest technology helps our platform compete against emerging alternatives. It's important for ISVs, IBM, and customers alike to all try to, all the time, consistently improve our technology to make sure that we are, in fact, competing against other platforms. And technology is just plain cool. We're sort of bit twiddler type people, and we just love doing that sort of thing. Support, we have a lot of financial institutions, governments, and things like that that are required to rate us every year, and we get 5 out of 5 ratings every single time. We're quite proud of that. We deliver annual releases, significant new function every time, no cash cows, and we're ready for IBM's early support program with all of our software. We don't wait until GA. Our GA is ESP. So here's a little list of some of the cool technology we've leveraged over the past, well, in this case, it says decade plus in the title, but it's starting to close in on like 15 years here, almost 16 years. And you can see that, I'm not going to go over each and every one of these things, but we have been taking a leadership role. And you would think, because a lot of this technology is developed by IBM, that they would take a leadership role in terms of its exploitation. But that isn't really the case. IBM's a big company, and there's a lot of different moving parts and different organizations. And in fact, in many instances, they're the ones doing the catch-up, and many of the ISVs are way out in the forefront. And we're proud to be one of those. And at the moment, under now, you could see some of the new things we've been doing, and the one that's been the most fun recently is vector instructions and also JES Web. These are the two things here that we're having a lot of fun with right now. So we spent a lot of time focusing on user experience, and I'm not going to go through all this because I want to make sure I leave time for a demo. But we're focused on having robust functionality, and of course every software product claims to have that. But of course we get a lot of customer feedback, especially those that have transitioned from other products, and we know that we're on the right track there. Interface consistency is very important to us. When we put in new capabilities, we want to make sure that our product does not have some facilities that work one way and others that work another way. We try to keep everything consistent so that a brand new user coming in, once they learn how to do one thing, they knew how to do it across the board. Non-textual heuristics, that really applies a little bit more to the 3270 world, and that we've taken advantage of a lot of the capabilities of 3270 that most ISVs don't. But we do apply those to JES Web where we can. And lastly, the principle of least astonishment. It's an interface design principle that basically states that when you try to do something, it ought to do what it is you thought it ought to do, as opposed to something completely different. That would be a violation of the principle of least astonishment. And what's astonishing is that so many violations exist in this world. Anyway, for us, it is a matter of pride. We're deeply involved in the mainframe community. I am the Share MVS program manager, and spend a lot of time working on that and trying to, advocate for our platform and so forth. So I know a lot of our customers personally, so anything less than excellence would be an embarrassment for sure. One of the big benefits of EJES and a lot of our software is zip redirection, and this has been talked about for many, many years, I think, so most people know exactly how it is that zip can help save money and improve performance and things like that, but it bears a little bit of repeating. Obviously, the zip are engines where software billing is not based on. So at least as far as companies like ours and IBM and others that understand subcapacity pricing and only price on GP utilization. When you move work to a zip, you improve the performance of the work in a couple of ways. One is just to move it on to less used engines, and also you're freeing up the original engines for other work to run. So it's a good thing all the way around. In our case, here's a little pictorial. An ISPF user would press enter. Of course, the transaction begins and it starts to run an ISPF, which is not zip enabled. And then ISPF reads in the screen, builds some variables, whatever it does, returns control back to EJES. EJES returns onto the zip, starts to run on the zip. And what's great is that we can do all sorts of accesses here of address spaces, system services. We can even do I/O from the zip. Most products cannot do that. We have our own proprietary I/O driver, and that allows us to do that. We don't need to issue an EXCP SVC or anything like that, which is what prevents I/O ordinarily from being done on a zip. And then when we're done, we return back to ISPF, who writes the final screen and goes back to the user. And we have actually measured up to 94% offload. So we're quite proud of that number, because now it depends, of course, on which functions you're using. There are services that need to be called in ZOS that require task mode, but for those things that don't, and typical displays like JES 2 hold or something like that, we can do without any TCB mode really at all. We also have some very cool optimizations in the area of multi-system client-server request and response processing. And this is just a picture here of what a typical multi-system client-server request-response model looks like. You'd have a bunch of requesters on one system. Each request is independent, goes through to some other system somewhere where you have a remote server, and you have various units of work serving those requests, and then they each get sent back independently. So that can that's a typical way that you have to do things in some cases if you don't really have a way of optimizing it, but it doesn't scale all that well, right? 20 requests takes 20 times the service that one request did. Well, what we do, because we do understand our data so well, is that we have a highly optimized model where we can have all the requesters on a system, and rather than them independently sending requests off, what they do is they wait on a queue on this local server they look for these result sets that they can use, which is the most recent data. And if it's not really recent enough to be transparently current, then you would have a single exchange occur between these two servers, and the remote server here would gather up whatever result sets are needed to satisfy the request, and then send back only the changed pages to the original server, who would then refresh this data right here, and then wake up all these units of work that are waiting, and all the requesters would go through and just take advantage of that single request. So in doing so, you know, obviously this is no quicker if you just have one user, but if you have, you know, many users, then it really does optimize well, and so it has a great performance curve. The larger the installation, the faster EJES runs compared to a traditional model. So this is our EJES solar system, we call it, and it's just a pictorial of all the different ways that you can get into EJES and use it. And we love this picture because when we get into, you know, sort of a competitive situation, we can put big red X's through things that, you know, whatever the competitor is happens to be what they just don't have, and you end up with a lot of red on this display, and it's kind of very powerful way of showing just how amazing EJES is in terms of all the different ways that it can be accessed and used by customers, by scripting in different environments, etc. But we're going to focus today on just the one down there that I've circled in red, JES Web. Now, what is JES Web? It is the most visible and tangible result of our ZOS interface modernization strategy, which we embarked on really at the end of 2013. We looked at it in terms of both install and user interface, and so this is the part that came out of some of the user interface work. Now, our original intent, and you can see that here, was to create sort of an interface for users that are uncomfortable navigating traditional 3270, thinking about millennials and other sort of people that are new to the platform. And as such, we really expected it to be sort of a weak sister to the 3270. We thought the 3270 would be always the most powerful interface, and that this would be just something for sort of casual use by folks that aren't so heavily invested in the platform. But what's happened is that JES Web has become gone way past that original intent. And now we have really a world-class product that is used by many customers for hundreds and hundreds of users. And you know, many of them you would consider to be sort of power users. And there's things that you can do in JES Web that are not so easily done in 3270. And we have tried to put in all the sort of 3270 capabilities there as well. So really, ultimately, we'd like for it to be a complete superset. It's not quite there yet, but it is extremely powerful at the moment, and it has gotten really good adoption from users. Now, it is written on in Java on the mainframe side, and that's turned out to be a really good choice because IBM has given ZOS Java highly preferential treatment in terms of hardware and software design and customer terms and conditions. All of that runs on zip, for example. So you know, it's not contributing to your software bills. It runs faster. If you're in a subcapacity machine, of course, zips will run full speed. They're not kneecapped at all. And there's no reason to think that that trend would not continue. And so, you know, we see Java as a solid language and platform choice. And I was there at Share in Seattle when Ross Murray of IBM asserted that Java runs better on Z than any other platform. And we absolutely agree with that. And since that time, things have really just improved, especially with the Z13 and Java 8, what we're seeing today. So the structure, you can tell that I'm a mainframe guy. I put the mainframe at the top Obviously, probably someone that really works on the workstation would probably have put the workstation on the top. But so I'm going to start with the bottom and say, all right, so in your browser, you have the native browser code, whether that's, and we support and test on Firefox, Edge, Opera, Safari, Internet Explorer 8, as well as the higher releases. What else? Basically all the Chrome, of course, all the popular ones. And there are some differences between them. And so this jQuery layer here is something that is used to sort of hide the differences between all the different native browsers. And then above that, we have a layer where we have our AJAX transactions that are being built and sent off to the mainframe. This is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. And that basically is the payloads there that in both directions are HTML with JSON payloads inside. And then on the mainframe, you have a web service, a REST API that is listening for this. And that is sitting on top of our EJES Java API, which, by the way, any customer can use. That is not a secret internal backdoor or anything like that. And then that sits on top of this Java API JNI, that's a Java Native Interface, DLL, written in C++, which calls the EJES API. Also, that's can be called by customers directly. From C programs, from assembler, COBOL, PO1, whatever you're writing, and then that ultimately gets down to the EJES base. So all this sits on the mainframe. And by doing this design the way we've done it, we've made sure that if EJES Web needs something, we have to put that code into our APIs here. There is no backdoor, and so that makes these APIs incredibly powerful and allows customers on their own to use them to do, very, very powerful things. We don't expect customers to write their own EJES Web, but the idea is you could. So the characteristics of this product, our performance objective is to have no sacrifice. Now I am just, completely sick of the well-accepted double standard that I see around where, if the 3270 mainframe application doesn't get sub-second response, they're trying to find out who's responsible. But meanwhile, you could have a web-based app, and you can just have that little spinner going around and around, and to me, that's just not fair. So we want to make sure that EJES Web performs just as well as a 3270 does, and it's very, very close. I mean, you saw all those layers, so clearly there's a lot going on there, but the way we've developed it and taken advantage of the capabilities that are there, we've really made these response times incredibly great. And you can see here, average refresh times, and this is our environment, a Z13S, Delta 03. We have an ICF, ZIP, IFL, OS Express 5. This is gigabit Ethernet. These are the PCs we use, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty standard, I think, for what a lot of folks out in the world are doing. And you see these response times here. I mean, it just come down here to total, like the status display with 52 jobs showing. You're less than a fifth of a second, right? So approaching a sixth of a second. So that looks pretty good. And if you have fewer jobs than that, it's even better, right? So these are great response times. We have all the same fine kind of capabilities like you'd expect to find on ISPF. You're not limited to the sort of hokey kinds of finds and things that you tend to see on a lot of these off-platform type browser-based solutions. We are using an ultra-thin client model, so all the really hard work, sorting, filtering, searching, etc., that's all being done on the server, okay? Where the data resides, that's what you want, data co-location with where the processing is. And the client is really just a slick interface for requesting and viewing these results. So that's how we're able to achieve this, this kind of amazing thing. If you wanted to try to really offload the work onto the PC, which we believe is a huge mistake, then if you had, 50,000 lines you needed to sort, you would have to download all 50,000 lines, then sort it at the PC only to display, 25 of them in a screen or something like that. So we want to sort it all in the mainframe and then just download what's necessary for the customer, for the end user, to be able to see what he wants to see. Classic context menus, you wouldn't think I'd even have to mention that, except that we found that at least one of our competitors has some very strange looking menus. Ours look like you'd expect them to look, and so you know, that's what you'd expect. And we again, the principle of least astonishment, we try to follow that at all times. Our log browsers are time-oriented, so you can just jump to any particular time, or you can drag the slider to a specific time and date or whatever, and it just jumps right there. And we have capabilities for downloading as text or PDF. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We did get started a little bit late, but this was just an example of one of our competitors' browsing experiences where they've actually subdivided the data into pages of so many lines each, like 2,000 or 3,000 lines. So then, you are in their version of JES Web, their web-based interface, you're only searching one page at a time, really, or processing one page at a time as an end user. And if you want to go forward, you have to go to the next page, and it downloads that next page, and you process that, and it's really hideous. Whereas for us, we just use, what you'd expect. And you would just see, line X of Y, and you have this slider, and it goes up and down, and it's all just one space, one single stream of lines, like you'd expect. So again, we're not violating the principle of least astonishment, and we shake our heads when others do. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to live demo now. Which I should be able to. Let's see, how can I get that? Let me fire up Firefox here. That happens to be the browser we tend to use most around here, but like I say, we support them all. And I have a JES 2 and a JES 3 flavor here. I'm not sure which I ought to start, but I'll probably do both just so you can see that we do have support for both. So there's JES 2 right there. Now if I fire up another one, oops, right here, then I can get a JES 3 system right here. And also, people ask from time to time, oh, can you get the JES Web through ZOSMF? Of course you can. If I go into there, I don't even need to log on if I have it set up right. You can have a link to pretty much anything there, and you can just click on there, and boom, in I go. So to log in because I'm already logged in, but if I wasn't logged in, I would have had to log in there. Anyway, so let me just, I'm going to close that one. It's already starting to get a little busy here. And I'll just go ahead and get started. So you saw me log in. That's all, your standard SAS login. It supports expired passwords and all that sort of thing. You can, change your password right then and there. You don't have to go somewhere else to do it. We have really great help. One of the, we have this user guide, which is basically an HTML version of, we have JES Web in there, and one of my favorite things on there to use is this keyboard map that gives all the little shortcuts, because there's a lot of little shortcuts, and if you want to become a power user, that's really the way to do it. There's also all the full help for JES in there as well. So the JES reference, JES messages, JES relief information, etc. That's all in there too. This is the base product. So because you may need to reference that as well. And we do still produce a manual for end users. It's not online help only like IBM is doing right now. Also, that message book is pretty good, because if you do get a message, let's say, let me just issue a bad command here. Bad command. And then you get, oh, this command is not recognized here. If you click on the message ID, it just jumps right into the JES message book and shows you that right there. So there's a lot of you know, friendliness right there, even just in the help. And I haven't even really got started here. So you'll note that this did start on the status panel here. Now, why did it do that? Well, the reason it did that was because I had my default display set that way. You can really default to any display that you want. If you're the kind of user who would prefer to be on the log initially, then you can select that as your initial display. And if you log out and then back in again, then you're going to be on the log. And you can see some messages here from me logging in and out. Right now is a good place to sort of show some of this great performance. I mean, I'm backing through the log right here, and I'm getting, you know, I don't know how it's translating in terms of across the web, across the internet, but what I'm seeing is really great, great response time here. So I'm real pleased about that. As far as navigation goes, you can see that every single display possible in 3270 is also possible in JES Web. That's because the way our design is, we're not having to develop independently each and every one of these displays. We have a genericized way of handling them, and so they're automatic. Every time we add something new, then that just automatically shows up here. And becomes available to JES Web. So there's no lag time there or anything like that. And again, here's like what that status looks like. Also, semicolon. If you hit the semicolon, you can just type in a command. So log or semicolon status or something like that, right? So if you're really used to using the keyboard, like on 3270, you can do those kinds of commands there as well. When you're navigating these pages, you know, you can go to the end, you can go back to the top, you can go up and down half a page at a time or a whole page at a time, you know, anything, the sorts of things you'd expect. There is mouse wheel support. I don't expect you to be able to tell that that's what I'm doing, but I am moving my mouse wheel. So, you know, again, you'd expect that. Bottom scroll mode is supported. For JES users, that would be, you know, if you go down to the bottom, see here it says bottom scroll. Basically, if this was an active job, and every time I refreshed it, it would be keeping me at the bottom of the display there all the time. Oh, I can demo that probably just on the log. So if I'm on the log here and I issue a command, for example, well, for one thing, you can see that when you issue a command through JES Web, you get this nice response back for the command. But also, you see that the log just got updated there without me scrolling forward. That's because I'm in this bottom scroll mode. So whatever is happening on the log, every time I refresh, I'm going to see those latest updates. Right? As far as selections goes, on a tabular display, you can select a single line like this. Obviously, you can double-click, and that gives you, you know, your browsing here. Right? Pretty standard kind of stuff. You can select multiple lines like this, discontiguous lines. You could select a range of lines, you know, all the sorts of things that you would expect to be able to do. You can also do it through the keyboard. So without my mouse, let me just position my pointer here so I can prove that. I'm moving this little cursor, and I have the ability here to, you know, for example, select that line, maybe move down here, select another one discontiguously or as a range. And I'm doing that selection right there, by the way, by hitting the space bar. So space bar is considered to be the same as clicking. And that's also true if you actually double click. So if I wanted to bring up this job, if I hit double space bar and not double click, then I'm getting exactly the same as if I double-clicked. All right. Let's see. Line commands, if you're on here, if I wanted to, say, cancel this or something, these are all, you know, I'm just right-clicking. I'm getting a standard pop-up menu like I was talking about before, and with sub-choices. And basically every single thing you can do in 3270, of course, you could do right here. If you don't want to use these menus, you have the option of for example, just typing a colon, and then that opens up a command line. You could just type in the line command the way you'd want it to be, like colon B here is just going to browse that guy. And so you can sort of mix and match, use sort of the 3270 capabilities as well as you know, like traditional mouse-based capabilities. The selection criteria is very robust here. We have all the primary selections just like you would in 3270, all the same kinds of filtering that you'd expect from the pop-up primary selection window are all here. What else is neat is you can toggle these. So, and you can do it either this way, like with that off, I'm looking at everything. With that on, I'm looking at just those things that match my primary selection. Or I can, you know, just with a keystroke, just hit, in this case, I'm typing P, which, you know, happens to be the same as the command on the 3270 for doing this very same thing. And that is toggling between them. So, you know, you have all that kind of filtering capability there. We also have meta filters. So, and what's neat about meta filters is this takes it to another level beyond what we could do on 3270 even, because, for example, we could do something like, let's say we want to only see everything that ab-ended, or let's say had a JCL error. All right. So if I say, and I'll say I want to show only matching rows. I could also do non-matching rows. I could colorize the matching rows, colorize the non-matching rows. But for right now, I'm just going to show only the matching rows. So these are the ones that have ab-ends and JCL errors. Now, if I go in here and I can disable them, or I can re-enable, or I could do it just, again, with a keystroke. But I can also go in here and manage my meta filters. So I've got this one called default that I built because there was no other one to build, and I can add another one. So this other one I build, let's say I want to only do, I don't know, this is going to be a real simple one just for for a demo. I'm not really, it's not all that usable, but all right, we'll call this kicks jobs. We'll call it kicks, and we'll call it optional description as kicks jobs. And now, when I look in here, I've got a kicks and I've got a default. So if I can have as many of these saved as I want, and then I can say, oh, let's use kicks, and it should show only the. Of course, I don't have any kicks jobs. Maybe with my primary selections, but if I turn that off, yeah, then I do have some kicks jobs. And then if I go back in and to my meta filters here, and I go back and say I want to now use default, then we're going to show only the ab-ends and JCL errors, right? And so that is pretty nice because you can set these up for all sorts of complicated things. You can have up to 16 meta filters, and you saw you can and or them and stuff like that. So that really does give you a lot of nice power. In 3270, we have that same capability, but what we don't have is the ability to save these different sets of them and then go in and use them. So, you know, a lot of people are finding that quite useful. Column arrangement, as you'd expect, you can, and it's kind of neat. I mean, so you have this column arrangement dialog, and you can move, you know, columns from the visible side to the hidden side, and you can rearrange them if you want to rearrange them like this. You could change their widths and things like that. Or you can also just, you know, just as a quickie way of doing something similar, just take a column and just drag it somewhere, and it moves. So you can just sort of sit here and you know, arrange your display any way you like. Everything to the right of this red line is scrolling when I do horizontal scrolling, and everything to the left of it is staying. And so when you're arranging, you can take one of these and you can move it in front of the red line. I'm going to actually put it right there. And then, you know, so you can actually control which columns are fixed and which columns are variable, that sort of thing. You also have sorting, obviously. It would be kind of crazy if we didn't. Similar kind of thing. You can drag and drop and create all sorts of sorts, but you can also just click on something and sort by a particular column. You can actually sort by more than one column by clicking, and then you know, there's a way to turn that back off. One of my favorite sorts, really, I'm sorry, they're sorting. The way, so see now lines has been dragged over there, is just my favorite is to do Q date and Q time, and then in descending order. That's the one that I just tend to use all the time as a user of a system, and that puts my most, recent job always at the top, whatever I most recently submitted. All right, so let's see, what other kinds of stuff can I sort of show you here? So there's finds on this tabular panel, so I could do a find on I don't know. What's a good example? Well, let me turn off the meta filtering first, so I'm seeing more stuff, and then let me just do a find here on CC. Let me try this, CC0000, just to show it happen, and it should, and there it did. It positioned this down there. So you have finds, and the find is not just on the first column or anything like that. It's on whatever data is here being shown to you as a user. And with that find, you can go to the next hit like that, back to the previous hits, and that sort of thing. And there's labels. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. There's locate commands. When you are browsing and using this find here, let me just, that's not a very good looking display. Let me find something that looks a little more, let me see if I can find an SMP job. How about, yeah, there's one. All right, so this is a pretty good size job, I would think. All right, so if I do a find on SMPE, then you're going to see here kind of what that looks like, and it's very much like ISPF, right? You have we're colorizing everything, and then you see where the cursor is located with that with the sort of colorized yellow part right there, and then as you go forward, it, and then when you go off the page, it goes to the next one. So, and it's very quick. I mean, I'm hitting this as quick as I can, and it's just flying here. So, but all the capabilities are there. So, if you wanted to find like the word SMPE as a word only, I could say find SMPE word, and in that case, it's only going to find the words SMPE and not where it was just a prefix. Okay, so all that sort of ISPF capability that you sort of expect to see is definitely there. Here's where you'd have locate, for example, in here. Let's see if I can. Here's my. I seem to have lost my. Oh, there it is. I can locate to a particular line number, like 1000, for example, or I could set a label like .a, and it says label A assigned, and then I can go down, and if I say locate A, then it's going to jump back to that. Things like that, right? So all that sort of stuff that you're sort of expecting to see is there. You can jump from data set to data set. So see, I'm jumping ahead through these data sets one at a time. I can go back through them. I can go to a specific one if I want. So all that sort of navigation kinds of capability is there as well. Let's see, on OperaLog, you would have a little bit different thing because, again, you have times. So if I did a locate and I said, take me to 5 o'clock, then it'll take me to 5 o'clock today. Or I could put in a date and a time and a date, and it'll take me there. Or I can go back, an hour at a time or a day at a time, or however I want to navigate through this log. I can also, as I mentioned earlier, just grab this little thumb here, find some specific date and time I want to go to, and then just and then it just goes there. Well, it already jumped there before I let go because it waits for me to pause. But I'll just move it like this and then jump there. Yeah. So that's all time oriented. It's true on OperaLog. It's also true on syslog. Yeah. So even though syslog is, we have to do the time lookup ourselves, that's all hidden from the user. I did show system commands earlier, and I'll just do it again since you press a slash, and then whatever command you issue in there, then you're gonna see the result of that command. If you issue multiple commands, like for example, if I'm sitting on the status display and I do, let's say I do two lines here, and I'm going to say display do a display command on it, then it issued both commands, and it concatenated their responses together in this little window here. And then, of course, if there isn't room in this window for everything you want to see, you still have the ulog up here. Let's see, I guess that's under Tools. And the ulog has the complete transcript of all the commands and responses that have been issued here. So there's all that same kind of capability like you'd expect. As far as resubmitting a job, that's quite a popular thing for people to do, of course. And see if I can find an actual job here. I'm not seeing one there. Maybe I could find one here. If I go back to status here, I should be able to. Let's see, I thought I was going back to status. This one is, I'm not sure what's going on there. Let me just try this one. So, oh, I know what I'll do. I will turn off the filtering. All right, so here's some sort of a job. And what I can do is I can, when I browse this, I can browse the JCL for that job. And then this is actually, it says browse, but this is really an editor in a sense. And I could edit this stuff however way I like, and then I can right-click and submit the job, and it'll go ahead and submit it. I'm going to do it. Now, it should probably fail. And there's my job ID right there, and then the job just got resubmitted. So that's in there. You have these little guidelines, which is kind of cool for people that use JCL. You have options on how you want to submit those jobs. You could either do it through the internal reader, which we'd expect you to do normally, or FTP if for some reason that seems to be something you want to be able to do. Lastly, I wanted to just quickly show how you can download some stuff. So let me find something that has enough data in it to be kind of interesting. All right, so and also something that's not proprietary. So I'm going to take this listcat right here because there can't be really anything proprietary in there, and I'm going to say download. And by the way, this is something that can be protected. So we did find a country where they had regulatory, they had regulations that said that the data that was on the mainframe had to stay on the mainframe, and you couldn't move it off platform. And so we created some SAF rules that they could look at and say, oh, this kind of data, don't allow it to be downloaded. This other data, yeah, go ahead and allow it. Even though you're allowed to browse it with your eyes, you're not allowed to download it. So, but anyway, you can download it as text or as a PDF. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do it as a PDF. And I'm just going to take all the defaults here. But there's things you can set there, make some changes, whatever you want to do. Okay, there's my PDF. I could save it, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and open it. And you can see that we honored all the carriage control, right? These are the actual page ejects and things like that, the various pages that are actually being produced by IDCAMs right here. So, and we just built a PDF just that quick. So, I guess, yeah, in the interest of time, it looks like it's about 10 minutes to the hour, and I've sort of given you sort of a flavor of some of the capabilities that are there, and the speed of it, the performance, the ease of use. So, I don't want to bore anybody by just droning on and on, showing one feature after another, but there is just an awful lot of capability here, and as I say, there are people, using this on a daily basis in large installations across the United States and across the world. And, we've gotten a lot of fantastic feedback from them, and just made it better and better and better. And we're really, really quite pleased with what we're getting out of it now. So, you know, it's my privilege to be able to demonstrate it for you today. And what I'm going to do now is just sort of open up for questions and see if anybody has any questions. And those questions could be, hey, could you show me how to do something? That's fine too.